Hi and welcome to another episode of Peacemaking TV. As you know, on this channel we love Visual Composer, Elementor, all those kinds of page builders, and today we're going to take our first look at Divi from Elegant Themes. Now Divi is something that's been growing in popularity for quite a while, and it's on version 3, and that's the one we're going to take a look at. So in this video I'm going to give you an overview, a basic overview of how Divi works, and I'm going to give you my first thoughts on what I think of version 3. So without further ado, let's crack on and take a look at Divi. So before I start this demo and basic review, I'm going to give you just one bit of information, and that's the fact that I was supplied this copy free from Elegant Themes. That's not going to influence what I think of it. I'm still going to give you my positives and negatives at the end of the video and say what I honestly think of it. So just want to make that clear. So let's crack on now and take a look. So we're in the admin section of WordPress, and as you can see, I've got a basic installation, nothing really going on there. I'm using the Divi theme, but I'm not too worried about that. We'll worry about looking at that in a different video. I just want to show you the page editor and how to use it. So what I'm going to do is let's just go through the pages section. Let's just add a new page in there, and we'll use that as the basis of our Divi page. So as you can see, if you've seen any of the videos where I've gone into Visual Composer and Elementor in the past, it's got a very similar kind of sort of way of invoking it. You can see we can use the Divi Builder. If we choose not to, then we've just got the normal editor that we've got with WordPress. We've got a couple of other things on here. You can see we've got Divi page settings, and we've got custom fields and so on. Now some of these things are sort of specific to the fact that I'm using the Divi theme. We're not going to touch those. We'll leave those completely. The same goes for some of these different icons that's on the basic editor. And you'll see when we go into the Divi Builder itself, we'll have some of those in there as well. And again, I'm not going to touch those, so you can ignore those completely. Now what we are going to do is we're just going to click on Use the Divi Builder, and that's going to invoke the editor so we can start working with the layout. Now if you've used Visual Composer, then this is going to look very familiar to you. You're going to have a typical kind of layout. We've got rows, we've got columns, we've got different sections and so on. However, it's quite different to Elementor. But what you get with this is we work in a building block fashion in exactly the same way as all the other editors do, but the difference with this is that we don't actually see the content. We just see the building blocks. We can go in and control what content goes in there, and we can edit it, and we can see some basics. We can even preview what that particular section is going to look like. But when we're looking at the page as we develop it, we're only going to see those building blocks. So you may find that a little bit of a weird way of working if you're used to working with Elementor or Visual Composer. But fundamentally, they work in the same kind of fashion. If we use Visual Builder, that'll jump us over and we'll take a look at a blank page where we can start working within the confines of the theme. I'm not going to worry too much about that. I want to show you the back end way of doing this. So let's just take a look at the way that the thing is laid out to start off with. Let's see the options we've got. Then we'll start taking a look at some of the building block elements. So to start off with, you can see we've got a couple of different options. We've got save to library, load from library, clear layout, and so on. We've got a couple of icons on the right hand side where we've got things like we can import and export layouts. We can go through and we can see the settings for this particular Divi Builder element. We can contract it, so we can say we can hide it, we can show it. So if we're dealing with a theme that has a lot of information in the back end and we want to sort of streamline our interface, we can just simply close that up and we can see just the Divi Builder strip, and everything else shows us the WordPress layout. Expand that out, you can see we've got undo and redo, and we've got a history option. So as we build our layout up, we can go through the history and we can see exactly what we've done, and we can jump back to different points in our history if we need to. Next up, we've got the physical area that we work with when we're creating our layouts inside Divi itself. So you can see we've got different blocks. We've got row blocks, we've got different column sections. We can go in and control those, and each one of those has a couple of different icons in there. So in this column section, you can see the first option where you've got 3 lines. That denotes the fact that we've got settings, and that's the same iconography that's throughout the entire Divi Builder. So if we look at the overall Divi element itself, you can see we've got the 3 lines that denotes the settings for the entire Divi Builder, for the column, for the row, and as we start to build in widgets, you'll see we get the same kind of icons in there. Underneath that, we've got the option to clone, so we can quickly and easily clone a section, clone a row, clone a widget, whatever we want. We can then go in and we can close those or delete those out by clicking on the X to get rid of them completely. Again, you'll see we've got the plus arrow where we can insert columns, insert rows, and underneath that we've got add a standard section, a full width section, a speciality section, or when we create our own library items, we can add those in from a library. Now we'll take a look at a lot of these in their own dedicated videos further on down the line. I just want to give you an overview in this particular video. So let's just start off by taking a look what we can do. We've got the insert column. So what we can do is we can click in there, and that gives us the ability to go in and choose exactly how this column is going to be laid out. Do we want it to be a single block? Do we want it to be a half and half? We'll go through it and control those. We could even build our own if we want to. To start off with, let's keep this simple. Let's just go for a 50-50 sort of layout. You can see that now splits that row into two separate columns and says we can now go and insert our modules in there. So once we want to do that, we can insert the modules. Before we do, because we've split this and we've set a layout in there, we've now got a new icon in the row section, which is the structure. Now if we don't want to keep this in the same way as it is, we can simply click on that and we can bring back up that insert columns layout dialog box, and we can now go in and change the way this is laid out. So we may want to change our mind and have a quarter, half quarter layout. We can do that simply and easily, and it updates itself on there to show us exactly what we've got. So moving on from that, we can now start to insert our modules, or as they're called in various other different page editors, widgets and other different terms. They're just the building blocks that we use to create the different elements. So graphics, if we want to put images in there, we'll put sliders in there, text blocks and so on. Each of these different ones have their own sort of terminology, and Divi's no different. So let's just go into the first module and create something in there. So let's just click in there, and you can see that opens up the option to insert the module, and Divi ships with quite a few different kinds of modules. So you can see we've got all the normals like text ones, we've got video, testimonials, sliders, search options, pricing tables and so on. So there's a good array of different options that we can put in there. So let's just come down and start off with the one we normally work with to start with, and that's the text block. So we click, insert that in there, and you can see that brings up the normal editor that you're going to find with pretty much all of these modules inside Divi. You've generally got three different tabs across the top. You've got the general settings, which gives us the most basic options. We've then got the advanced design settings, which gives us the option to go in and tweak the specific module in a lot more detail. Certain aspects of this will open up additional features depending upon the option you choose. There's also different options in here for working with mobile devices, for working with tablets and working with desktops, so we can control that. So we can have it so it will change the layout, change the various different elements based upon the device that the website or the web page is currently being looked at. So that gives us a lot of flexibility, and again it works in a very similar fashion to the way that Elementor does, which is different to the way that Visual Composer works. So as you can see, we've got a lot of different options in there. We scroll down, you can see we can really fine-tune and tweak the way that everything is laid out. And just to show you what I mean when I'm saying you toggle options on and off and they open up additional functions, let's just say we want to use the border option. We can click on there. Once we do that, it opens up some additional options specific to adding a border to this particular module, border color, border width and so on. If we toggle that back off, you can see it then closes that down and hides those particular functions. Next up, we've got the custom CSS, and you can see this gives us the option to create a custom CSS ID or class. We could then go in and customize that particular element, so we can use before, main element, after. There's a lot of different options, and we'll cover custom CSS in its own video because it's the kind of thing that's a kind of more advanced topic, and it requires its own video to really give you a sort of good understanding of how to do it. If we then look at the bottom, we've got three different buttons we can use. Save and add to library, which as its name suggests will save what we've done and then add it to our library, so we can call that back up at a later date and make any sort of use that again and again and again to speed up the process of developing a website or a web page where we use common elements over and over again. We can then go in and fine tune and tweak those afterwards. We've also got the preview, which is this denoted by the little eye symbol. We can switch that on, we can switch that off. At the moment we're seeing nothing on there because we haven't actually applied anything to the text module. But you'll see when it's enabled, we can switch between the three different views. So we've got tablet, we've got mobile, we've got tablet, and we've got desktop. And that will show us what each one of the sort of layouts will look like based upon the devices being viewed upon. If we want to get rid of that and switch back to the editing module, we can just simply click on the X in the middle and that'll take us back, and you can see our three tabs are now back, and we can go back in and start working on adjusting or tweaking this particular module. And finally, we've got save and exit, which will just save this and then exit this particular dialog box. It won't exit the page or anything else, just the dialog box for the module that we're currently working on. So let's take a look at adding some text into this and seeing how we can get some basic configuration in there and start building up a simple page using the Divi modules and the different ways we can lay things out. So now that we're ready to start adding some content in there, let's just get a little bit of text. So let's just come down to the main editor, and as you can see, this works in exactly the same way that it does inside WordPress itself. So if you're used to the editor, you're going to find this is going to work in exactly the same fashion. So let's just put some text in there. You can see I just copied a bit of plain filler text in. If we take a look at the top, then we've got the text color, which is dark or light. We've got the option for text orientation, and you can see we've got left, center, right, justified, and so on, the four main ones that we're going to deal with. If we want to add any media in there, we can do that at this point, and we can use any of the functions we want inside the normal editor. We've also got these different icon functions that are based upon Divi and any sort of add-ons that have been added into the Divi modules. Like I say, we're going to leave those as they are. Then we've also got the option below to go through and enable or disable this particular module on different devices. So we may say that we don't want this to display on phones and tablets, we want to display something else, so we can use what we call conditional logic. So you could say that this one is displayed on a phone and a tablet, whereas a different layout is going to be displayed on a desktop. So you can use those to quickly build that up. You've also got the option to create an admin label, which is just a way of you adding an identifier that makes a bit more sense than just a plain text or blurb or something along those lines. So it really gives you the ability to just tweak this so you've got an idea, especially if you're working collaboratively with another team member or other teams, and you may want to sort of make something a little bit more logical. So you can say, if you reference it, you can say check out the module blah 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 blah, and then they'll know exactly which module to look at, so there's less confusion. Next up, let's just jump up to the advanced section, and you can see we can go set max width, we can set the header font, the font size, font color, and so on. So we've got a lot more control over this. I'm going to leave that as it is for now, and we'll come and take a look at that in a moment once we've sort of seen how this works. So let's just say save and exit. So we've now put in some filler text. Now, what I can do is I could publish this and take a look at it, but what I'm going to do just to speed things up is to show you how we can use the clone option to quickly and easily duplicate this. That'll bring the dialog box back up. And all I'm going to do for this is I'm going to just take out a bit of this text just to make it a little bit smaller. And we'll say save and exit. I don't want to change any of the other options on there. Save and exit. And now what I can do is I can just come over anywhere on this particular module block except for where we've got the clone and the settings, because otherwise we'll either clone it or we'll put the settings. You'll see it changes the four-headed arrow, and now I can just simply drag that and drop it into a different module block. Now if I clone that again, and just say save and exit, I'm just going to drag that over and put that over there. So now we've got our three text blocks. I've quickly duplicated those or cloned them, edited the text a little bit in there to slim down what's going on, and I've pretty much created a simple layout. So let's just hit publish on that, and then we'll take a look at what that looks like. So I'm just going to give this a page of title a second, so we just call this Divi test. Hit update on there, and then we'll take a look at this. So let's just have a look at preview the changes. And there we go. We've got a simple page layout. We've got 3 columns with our text already laid out in there. Pretty quick and easy. So let's just jump back into the editor now and let's add some more things in there. Let's go and add some images in. So let's just say let's insert another module. And this time we're going to come down and we're going to find a single image. Once we've done that, you can see this brings up the same layout. So we've got the general settings, the advanced design settings, the custom CSS, all the same icons and buttons at the bottom. We just have different information, context based. So whatever option we choose, whatever module we choose, we're going to find we've got different options available in here. Again, we've got this custom CSS, so we can use all the same things to reference that in there. And the advanced design settings are based upon the fact that this is an image module. So what we're going to do is just going to quickly upload an image. So let's just hit the upload image button, and I'm just going to drag and drop a couple of images in there that we're going to use for this particular demo. So let's just grab a couple of images, drag those and drop those in there, and we'll let those upload a second. There we go. So we'll choose the image we want to use, and we'll say set as image. If we want to, we can put some alternative text in there. So we'll just say summer at the beach. We scroll down a little bit, you can see we've got image title text. I'm going to leave that out. I don't want to put a title on there. What I can do if I want to is I can specify whether or not this will open in a lightbox. In other words, is it a clickable image that will show me the full size version? So let's just say, yeah, why not? Looks pretty good. Next up, we've got the option to put an image overlay in there, so we can have that. So when the mouse over that particular image, we'll have an overlay go on there. Whether the image is animated, remove space below the image. We've got a lot of different options on here. And again, the same kind of thing goes. We've got the option to enable or disable this based upon the devices being viewed on. And again, we can easily come in and name this whatever we want. Go to the advanced settings and you can see we've got the option to set the max width. Do we want to force it to be full width? Always center the image on a mobile, and do we want to use a border and apply margins and so on? Well, I'm going to say I don't want to worry about any of those, but now I want to take a look at what it looks like before I move on. So what I can do is if I click, that will then open this up and show me exactly what I've got to see. So you can see there's our image animates on at the bottom of that column. Okay, that's not what I want. I don't like the animation, so I'm going to come back in there and I'm just going to scroll down and I'm going to find the animation and I'm going to say I don't want one. I'm going to say no animation. So there we go. I can just now go back in and test that out. Scroll down and you can see we now have no animation. The image is just there. If I click, it'll open up a full version of the image. I can click to close it down. And if I click to get rid of that, we jump back into the module. So let's just say save and exit. And then what I'm going to do, same as I've done before, which I'm going to do is clone this 2 times. And then I'm just going to simply position those in the relevant columns. So we're going to put those at the top of each of the columns and adjust this one to be at the top of that one as well. Let's just update that and we'll just jump over and preview the changes. And as you can see, we now have 3 columns with those images on there, and if we take our mouse over any of those, give it a click, you can see that now opens up the full view version. Close that down, click on the other one, all exactly the same. So easy to create these multi-column layers, easy to add images in there, all very quick and very simple. Like I said, jump back in and we can now go in and edit that if we want to. But let's move on and take a look at one of the other sort of row sections. At the moment, we've got a simple row that fits inside the confines of our layout. Let's go in and put in a nice header image now that's going to fill out and give us a little bit of something to look at on the page itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down and we're going to say we want a full width section. So we're going to click on that. You can see that now creates what looks exactly the same as this section above, the only difference being it's in purple. So we've got this color coding to tell us exactly what's going on, that these are different types of building blocks. Again, we've got the option for the settings to clone it and to delete it, and we can go in and insert a module should we want to. Now before I insert a module, I want to show you something. Let's come into the settings. Now we've set this to be a full width image, a full width layout. What we can do if we want to is we can create a background image for this, or we can set it to be transparent or a solid color or put a video in there. So we can do that, which is pretty cool. Now I'm going to come back and take a look at that in a moment. What I want to do is just jump back out of that and say let's insert a module, and let's just say we want to put in a full width something. Now you'll see that because we've set this to be a full width row or a full width column, then you can see we now have different modules available to us. All of these are full width based modules. So all the other modules are no longer available. We now have these full width ones. So let's just say, for argument's sake, we're going to go for a full width image. So you can see that now opens up the full width image module settings, and what we can do is we can upload an image. We can click on there. Let's choose an image, say set image. Again, we've got the same options, so we can put some alternative text, which I'd always recommend you put on there. If you want to put an image title, you can. Do you want to open in a lightbox? All the normal things are in there. It just happens to be a full width version of it. If we jump to the advanced settings, you can see we now have the option to create a border and apply custom margins to this. But I'm not going to worry. I'm going to say let's save and exit that. Let's just reposition it so it's at the top, and we'll just say update on there, and we'll just jump over and take a look at our test page. So there we go. There's our full width image. If we scroll down, you can see there's our 3-column layout, all looking pretty cool. So we've got a nice image on there. If we want to, we could put a slider in there, whatever we want, but we are kind of limited to a few things. If I wanted to apply a parallax effect to this, I can't really do it with this particular module. So let's just jump back out of that. I want to show you a way you can do that. Let's just get rid of that, so the full width image. We're just going to be left with the column container. Let's come into the settings on there, and let's set the same image to be the background image. So we'll just set that as the background. But now what we can do is we can use the padding, the custom padding in there to give us space. So what I'm talking about is if I save and exit this and I just update the page and jump back over to our test, refresh that, you'll see there's nothing in there. Even though we applied that row and we put an image in there, there's nothing in there. The reason for that is because there's nothing in this row. There's no module in there to force the sort of size of it sort of to go bigger so we can see anything in there. So what we can do is we can cheat that a little bit. Let's come back into the settings. Let's just scroll down till we get to our custom padding, and let's just set a nice custom padding of 250 pixels top and bottom. So that gives us basically 500 pixels of height. Let's save and exit that and just update the page. Jump back over and refresh. We now have that image in this. So we've got a pretty cool effect. Now, because we've done this, we're going to apply a parallax effect to it. Just come back in. Let's just edit the preferences on there, the settings, scroll down, and you can see we've got the option for use a parallax effect. Let's just say yes, we want to do that, and we'll leave it at true parallax. We'll save and exit and update the page. Jump back over and refresh. Looks pretty much the same. The position of the image has changed slightly because obviously it needs to allow for that parallax effect. But now when we scroll up and down, we now have that nice parallax effect of the image in the background. So looking pretty cool, and again, really, really easy to do, but it's just a case of that you need to go in, set the background, apply some padding to it, and then set the parallax effect. So that's how we can do that. Now then, let's just say that I want to use that on the top of every page. I'd just like to have the option of changing the image in there, but I want to speed up the process. Well, I can start using the library option. So what I can do is, if I just click on the settings on this, leave everything as they are, as long as I'm happy with everything on there, and just say save and add to library. We can do that, and you can see what this does now. It gives us the option to create a template name. So we'll call this parallax header. Do I want to make this a global item? And do I want to create a category? So let's just say I want to create a category, and we'll just say header sections. And we'll say save and add to library. So now that we've added that to our library, we can easily reuse that again. So let's just come down and say add from library. Click on there, you can see there's our parallax header. Because we've created a category, or you can see if there's multiple categories, we can filter these down to see exactly what's in each category. So it makes it obviously quite a lot easier if you're dealing with a website that has lots and lots of different layouts. So let's just say parallax header, click on there. You can see that now adds that in, and we've got a duplicate of it exactly the same as it was. So let's just delete the first one, which is the original one, update the page, and we'll just refresh, and we'll see it's exactly the same as it was because we've now replaced it with an identical copy. So we're going to leave the library modules there. We're going to take a look at those in their own dedicated video. We can go into global library items, and we take a look at the differences between all the different types of library items, and how you can use those to quickly prototype a website and or a web page and really create really powerful and useful different layered modules. Anyway, that's all we're going to do with that. The final thing I want to take a look at are the speciality sections. So if we give a click on there, you can see we get the option to create more complex type of layouts. The normal layout is just columns. With this one, you can see we've got columns and multiple rows sitting inside that specific layout. So we can create quite complex layouts. So we give a click on this one, for example. You can see that now creates a more complex layout. We've also got the fact that these are in different colors. So again, that color-coded theme is flowing through the entire way that you work with Divi itself. So when you become accustomed to this, you can quickly scan through and see exactly what type of rows and columns and modules and so on are being used just by the colors that have been applied to them. Again, we've got all the same iconography. So we've got the settings for the rows, settings for the columns. All these things are context sensitive, and we can easily drag and drop, insert modules into there and build these up just by using the simple building block elements. So that's all there is to the basics of working with Divi version 3. Now, what do I think of it? I really do like the layout structure. I do like the way that it's color-coded. I like the way it's very quick, very intuitive. Once you get into it, it's taken me literally 10 to 15 minutes to become accustomed to working with this because it's so similar in structure and the way that you work with it in comparison to things like Visual Composer and Elementor. One thing I'm not so fussed on is the fact that we have just building blocks. So when you look at a page like this, I don't really get a sense of exactly how things are laid out. I've got to go in and I've got to keep jumping back and forth and previewing the page or using the preview in this. and I find that a little counterintuitive when I'm working with the page layouts. That being said, it does make the whole process quick and easy to work with because you don't have to have those images dynamically generated. One of the things that I find with Visual Composer is when you're waiting for images, especially image galleries, if you're not on a very fast server, it can become painfully slow. So on that front, it's a compromise. Does it stack up to the other two? Yes and no. For me, like I say, I prefer the fact that I can see exactly what's going on. If you look at Elementor and Elementor Pro, you get the best of both worlds. You get to see exactly what your page layout is going to look like, and incredible speed when you're working with it. However, that being said, I don't think Divi's a bad option. I think it's a really good option, and I would recommend trying it out if you've got the option to test it out. Anyway, that's my kind of overview of working with Divi version 3, the page builder. We're going to take a look at this in more detail in future videos. We're going to break it down and create different kinds of pages and take a look at some of the different building blocks in more detail, and to get you really up to speed in creating great looking websites and web pages using the Divi Builder. As always, if you have any comments, questions or feedback on this video or anything else covered on the channel, please pop those in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to be kept up to date with all of the new content we add every single week. And until next time, take care.